Welcome, settle in, feel free to get comfortable and simply tune into my voice for maybe the next few minutes, 10, 20 minutes, dependent on your attention span. Here we are, me and you, present moment. Here we are, present moment. Here we are, present moment. And yet you may have also realized change as we are all upon this spinning globe, day and night, the spinning globe going around the sun, bringing about different seasons of change. Time is me, time is you, time is also what we are made out of. So astrology is just what we are. Astrology is just this creation. It has absolutely nothing to do with belief and everything to do with what is. We have a mind, Mercury, we have senses, Venus, we have an intuition, Jupiter, we've got a body, Mars, and we've got a skeletal system, Saturn, that holds together this body. There is no discrepancy, there's no disagreements in astrology. What you see is what you get. So let's talk about where we find ourselves in this passageway, this ever windy, crooked road called our lifetime here on planet Earth. And blessed Lamastide. This is August 1st. Typically when we celebrate the halfway point in between the summer solstice and the coming fall equinox. Technically time is all astronomy, so when the sun is at 15 degrees of the sign of Leo, that's our official Lamastide in between solstice and equinox. So again, astrology is what is. It's what you see is what you get. And these videos are disseminated like a message in a bottle put out into the synthetic ocean of the internet. When I speak to individuals one-on-one, we put together the current season with your highly unique birth chart, which reflects your individual soul. That is how I am able to offer very useful and accurate astrology readings, which, by the way, you can get a mini reading from me every month from my monthly Q&A for just $24. And I encourage you to join my Q&A this month of August. It will be the last month that I sell the Q&A for such a low price. All right, August 1st. We are winding down the prior lunation. The whole last month began with the new moon in Cancer. Not only was the last new moon squaring Chiron in the sign of Cancer, is also a new moon at the bends, marking the midway point between our eclipse seasons. Now, this year of 2024, I named in January the year that a divine spark will set our soul on fire. In April, the prior solar eclipse began an intense healing journey, crises, excavation that many of us have been going through in highly unique ways. That's going to continue now into fall time. Hot, spicy, intense, melting down, breaking down, as well as being resurrected. And where we find ourselves in time is generally in the midpoint of this crises, death, and resurrection. Now, this isn't going to happen all at the same time for all of us, but for many of us, it is in some way, shape, or form an experience of this year. And I am so happy to be speaking now about our Leo new moon on August 4th that's going to change the tone. There is a seasonal change that happens at every single new moon. So let me explain this reality of time. The way I like to describe new moons, or any conjunction, when any two planets pass one another, that's the beginning of a new cycle, and it's the most powerful aspect in astrology. That is like a key frame. So this chart is the actual moment of the new moon, and all of the planets are included in this snapshot. Now that snapshot, if you could imagine like getting your photograph taken and this bright light goes off and you see this white light, what happens is it takes time for that white light to dissolve, and we can't see for a little bit when we get a bright light shown in our eyes. Similarly, during a new moon, it's like there's a key frame that puts this energy out that then dissolves through the forthcoming month. So this new moon is not just a one-day event. The new moon sets the theme, the tone for the entire forthcoming month. Okay, so the last month began with a Cancer new moon, emotional. There's been a tremendous amount of emotional digestion taking place. Our new moon, August 4th in Leo, is trine the North Node in Aries. This next lunation, I believe, can be a revitalization of finding the inner flame, the inner direction. We'll talk much about this particular new moon being about honoring our individual truth. And Leo is very much the sign of authenticity. The Leo truth is the authentic reality of each individual being born unique. That's what authenticity is. Authenticity is not we all dress the same, act the same, go to church in the same way. Authenticity is every soul is unique. So this new moon in Leo is setting the tone to renew, to rebirth our hearts, to recenter in our hearts. And in such a recentering, entering a more spontaneous way of expressing. The sun, Leo, is just like what greets the door. It's hello, this is who I am. Hello, this is what I'm doing. But it's not forethought, it is spontaneous. Just like how the sun spontaneously releases its rays, impregnating the solar system with life, each of us is a little sun, and each of us can experience this renewal, this outburst, this excitement, returning to life, returning to our will to live. This is also going to bring in a forthcoming month, August, a time of individuation. The only one is you. The only one is you. In many, many respects, and certainly in authentic branches of astrology, the relationship between soul and God is emphasized because the only one is you. Can people really carry us through our fate and our samskaras and our healing journey? There is a point where each of us must learn to swim. There is a point where each of us must learn to take a stand in our own way for what it is that we uniquely are standing for. We learn and actualize this confidence that comes from within spontaneously, instead of being dependent on the curriculum or what other people are doing. This is the opportunity to clear away the distractions, keeping us from accessing that warmth of our own heart, that when we are effectively situated within, we simply radiate. There is a solar effulgence that each one of us has the opportunity to radiate out and to touch, uplift, and inspire the hearts of others. Can we do that another person's way? Can we do that by totally copying or mimicking somebody? We should all have souls that inspire us, role models that we look up to. In fact, without such role models or inspirational beings, we will be lost. We live in Western culture, most of us, regardless of where you are in the world. Western culture is obsessed with this narcissism of believing that we can do everything ourselves. No, we are a unique expression that nobody else will ever be similar to. But we're not able to do everything ourselves. The way I mentioned, bad astrology is growing. This is why, because of this narcissistic culture where people believe, I don't need a teacher, I already know astrology. Bullshit. Anybody who is an astrologer touting that type of nonsense, stay away from them. They will spread confusion and harm without having a single clue of what they're doing, probably believing they're saving the world. So many, many more people lost in that type of inauthentic spirituality than are in tune with actual spirituality. When we get in tune with actual spirituality, life becomes a lot more complex than being a god who gets to create whatever life you want to fucking live and doing whatever the fuck you want to do, right? That's why I do expose some of these cults, such as the Rose Priestess cults, is actually creating narcissism, creating abuse, creating divisionism between gender, and it's really, really unhealthy. It's unhelpful, and it's demolishing the divine feminine because it's not authentically representing it. Boy, isn't the gender stuff up this year with that last eclipse joining with Chiron. So again, that snapshot example, in April, we had the solar eclipse with Chiron. That's a 6-month snapshot. That takes us up through October that we're dealing with these Chiron Aries themes. The healing of gender is a big one. The healing of our physical body is a big one. Necessary boundaries, necessary cord cutting. Boy, the cord cutting is important and it's hot. but it's important. How do we know who we are until we're freed of all the distractions and all of the leeches and all of the perversion out there in the world that will not give us a clear mirror to accurately see ourselves? So we have to get to high ground first. Then we make contact with others on a similar wavelength to ourselves, and that's how we stay safe. That's how we stay protected. So a lot of this year so far has been a need to go, need to split, need to cut ties, wandering the desert, directionless, uncertain. And I believe that this forthcoming new moon, we can really start to feel a regaining momentum. And if we've already been out there in the desert wandering for some time, we might start to find ourselves locating the next oasis, or getting more of an understanding of where life is leading us. This is a particular powerful snapshot of a new moon, because we also see Venus, the last degree of the sun sign of Leo, in a yacht between Neptune and Pluto. So I'll break that down in just a minute. That's a powerful signature. Also Mercury stationing retrograde in his own sign of Virgo on the 4th. Now, this Mercury retrograde is saying there are some adjustments off of the eclipse. So I know what people talk about Mercury retrograde. I don't think this one's actually too bad, despite beginning in the sign of Virgo, which pretty clearly marks a need for adjustment. Something's off, something needs to be adjusted. We need to stop the whole process, take it apart, and then put it back together. That's really the signature of this Mercury stationing retrograde in Virgo. It's like, in order to fix the engine, you have to take apart every single little piece and look at it and check it and then put it back together piece by piece. That is the actual diagnosing process that we will all have to go through in some way, shape, or form, because there is a tremendous adjustment taking place generally this time of year. And this is a huge generalization. But again, the last few months, there's been a lot of crises, a lot of shredding apart. And this is, again, the year that a divine spark sets our soul on fire. And that is where we can find ourselves, is where is this kindling starting to spark a renewal and a rejuvenation of heart. Leo, the sun. Leo, the sun, can get awfully criticized for being narcissistic, as if those sun Leo people are the center of the solar system. Well, guess what? The sun is. And our own heart is the center of everything. So Leo actually rules golden ages. The last age of Leo was our last collective golden age. Venus at the last degree of Leo at the moment of this new moon in a yacht between Pluto and Neptune is powerful stuff. Because Venus is not only our heart, it's our value system. My goodness, Venus is also going to square Uranus tomorrow, the 2nd. This has to do with money. A lot to do with money and how we used to earn our money. The rug gets ripped out from under our feet, and now we've got to find a new way in order to save, in order to preserve. Uranus has been transiting Taurus these years. What is this? The changing of our total global economy. We're talking about the stock market going like this, with this particular new moon having Venus square to Uranus. But the yacht between Pluto and Neptune goes quite deep. This speaks to the authentic Leo reality of the human heart, Venus, and how every single human being has our potential. Neptune, to be like a saint, to be like Jesus Christ, to be overflowing like a fountainhead of love. And Pluto, we've got shadows. Every single soul in a body has a shadow and has a potential. And every single person must evaluate ourselves and one another to understand, who do we share our hearts with? That's what this yacht on Venus is going to catalyze, an intense researching, uncertainty, and catalyzing a transformation of the heart. So to connect with our lovers, not simply intimate lovers. Again, this year, it's almost like asexuality is hot. The gender stuff, it's honestly starting to aggravate me. What it aggravates me is the generalizations. Men never change. Women are jealous. All men are like this. All women are like this. Horseshit. Why are we even saying these things or uttering these things for half a millisecond when it's so far from the reality of every authentic individual is totally unique. So no, we're healing stuff to do with gender. Most of this is the past wounds we've received from the other gender. We don't want to throw the other gender out, I don't think. And we do need to be careful. And gender is also evolving. It's not just A or B type of situation. And I do think men are changing. And I do certainly see that women are changing. But we need to be careful here. There's a lot of deceitfulness. There's a lot of bullshit out there. There's a lot of calling ourselves one thing on the surface with plenty of ulterior motivation and unconscious stuff beneath it. So this yacht on Venus at the moment of this new moon is powerful. A yacht is the most powerful formation between three planets that can happen in astrology. And it is this intense pulverization. It's like we're getting transformed. This is an evolution of the heart. But where we're getting pushed and pulled between is this Neptune, last degree of Pisces that can just be so idealistic. And oh my gosh, we're all in heaven and we're all spiritual and we're all one. And it's like seeing through rose-tinted glasses and then looking at Pluto is just like this whole world is samsara, this whole world is hell. Everybody is not sincere and operating out of ulterior motivation and not even knowing that they're doing so. I mean, at my particular phase of learning, I am officially retreating from the world. I spent 4 years in Asheville, a spiritual hub, and in those 4 years, I feel like I've never been closer to the devil. The stark amount of inauthenticity made me sick to the point of developing an allergic response, and I had to leave. Now, what makes a human safe? Who do we want to be creating with? Who do we want to be designing? Who do we want to be expressing and with and loving? Those that understand themselves, those that know their shadow and their potential and don't get thrown around in an unbalanced way by either or. But that is absolutely the consensus. This is what everybody does. In fact, it drives me nuts because I've looked up to some of the most inspiring spiritual beings to me, and I see that they suffer and struggle from the same challenges that I do, trying to run my little online community, this, that, the other thing, where it's like people think that you should be either one or the other when everyone is both. Every human heart has a light and a shadow, irregardless of evolutionary stage. The most evolved souls, gurus, Jesus Christs, also have shadows. They're not quite the same as how we relate to our own shadow, but they don't go away. And what oftentimes happens, and what I've experienced even through my community, is it's like people put me up on this godlike pedestal, as if I ever have self-proclaimed to be a guru or a Jesus Christ figure. Hell no. I'm the person who comes forward with my shadow, and then people who have never done any shadow work get to tear me down. And people in my community even, it's like, oh, you're not Jesus Christ, you have a shadow, so we're going to tear you down. After spending years caring for thousands of people, I realized that less than 1% of those people are even capable of offering the same back to me. So what have I had to do? Minimize, reduce, cut cords, back off, focus on myself, revitalize my own soul. Now, Mars is approaching Jupiter in Gemini this month. That'll be exact on the 14th, and this is good. Again, last month, very emotional, kind of exhausting, heavier. Well, this next month is a resurrection. That's what fire does, right? It turns that water into steam, and then that steam lifts up. So Mars coming to Gemini is this increasing of ambition, and there's so many possibilities, and we can start to juggle more and do more and interconnect more. New places, new faces, new friends are forming, as this is going to expand multiplicity in terms of what we're doing, the amount of things that we can juggle. It's also, again, this wave, this increasing of ambition. Let's go back to school and learn. Let's not do either or, let's do both of them. And let's combine them together, and let's start to synthesize things in a creative way. So August is a very creative month. Asteroid Vesta also squares Pallas Athena. Really learning to hone this creativity includes coming up against the wall of creative blocks. Well, like I've been saying the last few videos, we're learning to pop that cork to get back into this creative flow. And sometimes this creative charge, the Jupiter stuff as well, can generate fanaticism. Like, oh, I'm the one that's doing it, or this is the right way, and everybody should be doing it the same way. No, again, the yacht on Venus is to evolve our own hearts, to evolve the electromagnetic field being emitted by that heart, so that way we see through our own self-reflection clearly who we are, what we love, what we want to share, and are working on an even field with other players of a similar game or on the same team or a part of a similar mission or creative direction, right? So heart is everything. Everything is here. And by dusting off our hearts and coming back into this creative center, which can include a rejuvenation of so many hobbies and likes and style that may have been dying off or on the back burner. It's like, oh yeah, me, that's who I am. That's what reminds me of who I am every morning and gets me back up on my feet. That's what we can rekindle the flame of. Mercury retrograde in Virgo is going to bring these technical adjustments, but it's again to kind of telephone operator the right people, places, and resources so we can earn money in new, different, more creatively supportive ways. We can share our heart's truth, our unique self-expression with more support, new creative ways. And this is going to take us into an experiment with Venus squaring Uranus. Again, stock market, money, even people and relationships, on, off, back and forth. It is to go through this necessary experimentation to hone in on that meeting point that will begin with the center of our heart. So to emit the electromagnetic field, just like the sun's rays, to put out the call, to touch, uplift, and inspire the hearts of others, but also to attract them to us. So that way we can start to form these new projects, endeavors, new ways of earning money, new communities, new relationships that honors our own truth. So we do not have to bend ourselves all out of shape to meet others where they are at. This new moon trine, the North Node in Aries, is specifically about individuation. Again, you can have your chart read by me this month. Check out Rosalila Community, join the Q&A circle. I will also be putting out some information in the near future about some of the adjustments that will be going on in the Ras Leela community. I cannot wait to come back to the community with a new reiteration, having learned all that I have these extraordinarily challenging recent years. I am wishing all the same for you and your beloveds, that there's some sense of revitalization. These recent years have been the death and the destruction of so many souls, literally, but metaphorically and symbolically speaking, even greater, even vaster. We've been close to death. This is the year of coming back to life. Not necessarily a comfortable process. It's like when your leg falls asleep on a long plane ride and then blood starts to circulate again. That can sometimes be an uncomfortable phase. Just know this is the phase of resurrection. Continue to honor what uplifts and inspires your heart. And because this is the center of everything, all the other bits and pieces with Mercury retrograde and Virgo can start to find themselves settling down into a new network and a new structure. I'll be speaking to you mid-August, where we'll talk about our forthcoming full moon in Aquarius. As always, do take care.